Hi, I'm Purple Rain, coach of the newly rebranded Damascus Driftblims, and this is my draft review for Season 10. I came in with a little bit of a different mindset this time for a couple reasons than I did last season. One, first and foremost, I didn't want to be as aggressive and frail this time. I felt like my team was super offensive, didn't have a way to play the long game, and I wanted to get better at doing that. Because I felt like in games where I was forced to make a lot of decisions, I wasn't as good, and I wanted to set myself up to play in those games later by learning how to do it, by building myself a team that could not be super aggressive all the time and win. I also played significantly less of Regulation D than I had Regulation A, B, or C before, and I have never used a lot of these Pokemon competitively because I just got into VGC at the start of the generation, so I didn't know a lot of the strength of and a lot of the power levels of the Pokemon. So I was kind of going off of intuition, looking at stats, and also I wanted to simplify. Last time I feel like I built a very good team, by the way, last season. But this time I wanted to build a team that was more centered around cores that I knew would be good, like a good way to start, and that led me directly to my first pick, Ted Lasso. And also I'm doing nicknames this season, and so these are my these will be my the whatever it's called, this will be the style the names are in, all after characters from the show Ted Lasso. And Ted Lasso is Heatran. So why did I pick Heatran? As I said, I wanted to make a team that was centered around cores. And the two cores that are most important that I know of are Fire, Water, Grass and Steel Fairy Dragon. And Heatran was sitting on the board at the 8th pick, mine, and it helps with both the Fire, Water, Grass and the Steel Fairy Dragon. And it really helps with the Fire, Water, Grass because it's mostly going to Terra into grass, and it will have Terra Blast some of the time. So it's just a really good. It's like it fills the fire for the Fire, Water, Grass core, and it like half fills the grass requirement, in my opinion. It's also significantly bulkier than my first pick last season, obviously, which was Fluttermane. And I thought after playing, Heatran is one of the few Pokemon I have played with on ladder a significant amount, and Fire Immunity plus Terra is obviously fantastic. Any immunity plus Terra is great, but Fire Immunity is really good because there are a lot of teams that won't have a really good way to attack with an Ice, Flying, or Bug type, and so having a Grass type that is immune to Fire, which is what Heatran is when it Terras, is really good. I also valued Heatran because it's got super versatile usage and it can have a variety of items. So I feel comfortable putting an Assault Vest on Heatran. I feel comfortable putting a Citrus Berry, Specs, a Scarf, basically any item, a Safety Goggle, like whatever. Heatran can have it. Because it can have any item, it can have tanky items, and at that point it's like basically just tank and stuff. And it's got really good stabs with Heat Wave, Steel, Flash Cannon, stuff like that. It's got okay coverage, but the okay coverage is like a lot better when you can consider what it already hits, because like Heat Wave and Flash Cannon and Earth Power are all really complement each other well. It also has a Dragon move if I need to hit a Dragon type or something, or if I just want a strong neutral hit. It's got Dark Pulse for Psychics. It's just a good general, good coverage. Not like the best in the world, but good. Yeah, and so that was mostly why I took Heatran. Yeah. Then, moving on to my next pick, I have Jamie Tart the Gyarados. Jamie is going to help, obviously, with my Fire, Water, Grass core, being the water type. I wanted a physical attacker as my second pick, because last season I felt like, well, this didn't end up being too much of a problem. It was annoying to have both of my top 2 Pokemon picked be of the same damage type. And so this time I wanted to diversify a little bit. So I got a physical attacking water type that had Intimidate. I wanted that, so it was really between Gyarados and Tauros Aqua, but what made Gyarados extra nice was it's immune to ground. Heatran obviously has a 4 times weakness to ground, so that was a lot of the mindset of why I picked it. And I wanted to Intimidate because, like I said before, I want to make this team a lot more defensive oriented. I want to be able to make pivoting moves a lot more. And I feel like a really good Intimidator helps with that. I also love Gyarados because it has super versatile usage. I think it can pretty reasonably be just a pure attacking Gyarados 1 week, and then a pure support the next, with Waterfall as its damaging move that flinches, Thunder Wave, Taunt, Icy Wind or something. Like, it can do either job and be super good at it. Obviously on ladder, at least in Regulation C, I believe, it was mostly used as a support, but in draft, I think it can be, with a 125 attack stat, it can be an attacker. And the limitations of it are pretty obvious. It has a good water stab, but no real flying stab. If you want to use a flying attack with it, it's got to be Terra Blast. And it doesn't have very good coverage. But like I said, it can be just a pure physical attacker, or an attacker with like a support move here and there, or a pure support. So it still has the move pool. It's just the moves that are good are not put into coverage as much as they are support. But I don't think I'm going to have a problem bringing it any week where it justifies it. Like, it will justify its place on the team, I feel like, quite often. And then I got Roy Kent. So what was really interesting about Roy is that I didn't start with Roy. For those of you who followed the draft closely, I picked up a Moltres Galar. So I wanted Tornadus Therian at first. And then right before my pick, Tay sniped me. And they got Tornadus Therian. And I said, and the reason I wanted Tornadus Therian mostly was for a fast Tailwind. And I was looking at the board and I was like, I really wasn't able to come up with a backup the night before. And so the morning I saw I was sniped, I looked at the board and I was like, I just don't think anything is like fast enough that I want it for Tailwind, while also being low enough points that I can justify it. Or like the other option was like Talonflame, and I was like, I don't want another fire type already. And for such high points, I don't want 2 fire types at like 18 and 20 points. Like, that seems like it's gonna kind of cripple my ability to get coverage and to fill out these cores that I need. And so I went with Moltres because it was 16 points, and I was like, 90 speed isn't horrible, but it's obviously not what I want. It doesn't mean it'll Tailwind before my other 2 Pokemon so far, being Gyarados with a lower speed and Heatran with a lower speed. but it's still it wasn't ideal. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, this kind of sucks. Like, this is not what I want to be doing. But Jay reached out to me, or Jay made it clear that I had sniped. Actually, two people did. I also stole it from Colby or Kodamrin. But Jay was the one who was more wanted Moltres more. And so we were able to come up with a trade where I got their 5th round pick, they got my 6th, and they would pick me the Pokemon that I ultimately thought was probably better for my team anyways, once I was able to find a way to justify spending 21 points on it. And that was Roy here with Roaring Moon. And so in the end, I ended up picking up a 5th round pick out of this, like moving up around for a pick in that situation, which was super great, super nice for me, because I made the wrong pick in my mind anyways, and then I still got super value out of it. Okay, but it's the dragon and the Steel Fairy Dragon Core, obviously. It is a super strong physical attacker, and so now my 2 highest point Pokemon also do not share a damage type, which I like. It has tons of item versatility. And also it has access to booster energy, which is really important because, like I said, I want a fast Tailwind, and so some weeks it can be a super fast Tailwind with booster energy if needed, and some weeks it can be a fast support, like just a fast support in general with Breaking Swipes, Tailwind. It gets some other moves that I'm not remembering off the top of my head that will make it a good support. And it also can be booster damage, or it can be Life Orb, or it can be Choice Band, or it can be, it's bulky enough that it can be Leftovers or Assault Vest or Citrus, and like it can do so much with the items. Or especially since it's a Dark Dragon, you can put like a Roselli or whatever, or whatever berry you need. And it's got pretty good stabs, not great because you're relying on Dragon Claw, or I believe it gets Outrage, which, Outrage you don't really want to use unless the opponent has like no fairies or something. And the coverage on it is pretty solid. It's just a generally really, really good Pokemon with the ability to be support, damage, whatever you need. And it gives me an Earthquake because I have a Flying type. So basically, this is my Earthquake Pokemon, I feel like, most of the time. Whenever I need an Earthquake, it can do the job. And it can be... And also, what's really nice about it is it can have super versatile offensive and defensive Terras. Like, it can Terra Ground Earthquake, obviously with booster energy. As people, I'm sure, are aware, it can Terra Flying Acrobatics. So yeah, you never really, unlike Heatran, you never really know what it's going to Terra into. Whereas Heatran, I feel like, is more one-dimensional in that way. So this gives me some like flexibility there. Oh, next is the Wonder Kid, Nathan Shelley, aka Toadscruel. So Toadscruel is my was my 4th round pick, and I picked Toadscruel because it finished out my Firewater Grass core. It also gave me a real ground type because I was looking at the board and ground types were gone everywhere. Everybody in the draft wanted a Disquake combo, and everybody was prioritizing ground types really quickly, which I knew would happen, or I knew might happen. And I was just looking and I was like, I'm not going to get a good grass type or a good ground type. So I might as well get a ground type that's also a grass type. So I can pick up both of those niches in one Pokemon. It will function kind of as a special attacker. Obviously its special attack stat is under 100, so it's not like doing the most. But it's got some okay special attacking moves. Like, for instance, it's got Leaf Storm, right, which is good. and even with the low special attack stat, it can do some damage. It's got Earth Power. You know, it'll do stuff in that way. It has a higher special defense than defense, which I valued because I've got Intimidate, and I don't have a ton of ways of mitigating special defense, so I thought that would be fine. But most of the time is going to be acting as a pretty pure support and tank into special attacking teams, I guess, but really a support. It has Trick Room if I need to like reverse Trick Room or something. It has Redirection with Rage Powder. It has Spore, which is really annoying. Obviously, it has Mycelium Might, which makes Spore significantly worse. Mycelium Might being the move that makes statuses go last. Any status move it uses go last. But it has really good stabs. Like I said, Leaf Storm, Earth Power, basically the two you want to use on a Pokemon with such low special attack. And I think it also has Energy Ball, and so it can use a lot of grass stabs if Leaf Storm isn't needed. But yeah, the big thing was it's an available ground type, and it's a Fire, Water, Grass core, and it offers some really cool stuff like Redirection, Spore, Trick Room. You know, stuff that I thought would be good. And it plays into this longer game style I'm trying to. And now we've got Sam Obasanya, the Raichu. So I picked up Gyarados, and the moment I picked up Gyarados, I was like, I'm probably going to pick up Raichu at some point. And I did. Here he is. So I don't really know what to say about Raichu. We all know what it does. It's Gyarados' partner. It has Lightning Rod. It's a fast support with a good amount of support moves, and it has Fake Out. Its job is going to be to sit next to Gyarados when I think there's an electric type attack coming, or to switch in when there's an electric type attack coming, or to Fake Out and then just, you know, do some supporty stuff. It can be a special attacker for me. I feel like it will be most of the time. Like when I need for other things to do other than just Fake Out. Like Fake Out, T-Ball, Protect, X will be most of the time what I go with, I think. And yeah, so it's honestly Raichu pretty one-dimensional, but not bad. Just not great. You know, it was 12 points or whatever. I maybe felt like it was a little overpriced, to be honest, but I wanted it as a Gyarados partner. And I needed a Fake Out in my plan anyways. This ended up being the only Fake Out I drafted, and I knew that was pretty likely to be the case because of the other Pokemon I wanted, and the other niches I wanted to fill. So yeah, this ended up being my only. I wanted a Fake Out, and so this was my answer for getting a Fake Out. If I already had one or was going to get another one later, I don't know if I would have actually ever picked up Raichu. That being said, I didn't. So here he is, and I think he'll come to a good amount of games. I like it overall. So now I have Rebecca Welton, the Scream Tail. So this pick was the wrong pick. Like, and I say that, I knew that at the time. I should have gone Florges. There were two reasons I didn't go Florges. One, I'm using Florges in another league, and I didn't want to use it at the same time as I was already using it. I kind of already don't want to use Pokemon that I've used before. I definitely don't want to use it at the same time as I'm using it in a different league. It just felt kind of bad to do. Like I didn't want it. I want to do that. And I really wanted to try Screamtail in draft, because when I look at his move pool, it's crazy. It's got so many niche tech moves. But yeah, anyways, I just think it would be really interesting and a really cool way of sort of like pushing me to do different stuff. Giving me a mon that's so flexible. I also have experience using it on ladder. But yeah, anyways, it was really just, I didn't want to use Florges. It was the correct move though, because I needed another special attacker, at least one more, and I wanted a fairy type. But I was like, well, I would rather have Screamtail. So it's a bulky support. It is also versatile and it can be faster Trick Room. When it's fast, it obviously has the most annoying set in the world, which I'm sorry, but I'm going to probably use it at least once with Encore Disable. It's just so good. Like, it's a very good set that puts a lot of pressure on the opponent. And it finishes out my Steel Fairy Dragon Core. It has either like supporty stabs in Psychic Fangs or spread with Dazzling Gleam, or play rough if I need that extra bit of damage on a physical attack that isn't spread. And it's got niche tech moves for some weeks. It's got Weather, it's got Scary Face, slow people down, it's got Howl. That's one of the things I like about having a primarily physically offensive team with Screamtail. Some weeks I'm going to be able to legitimately justify bringing Howl and setting up over the course of a long time with like Gyarados Intimidates and just pushing people around and surviving with Howl, while Screamtail also is annoying in other ways. So yeah, that's basically what Screamtail's going to do. It's going to either set up or reverse or imprison Trick Room. It's going to have these niche tech moves, and it's going to be really annoying. But I think it's going to justify its place on here, even though it was the wrong pick for my team. Then I have Keely Jones. Keely Jones is my Hisuian Braviary. It's a pretty bulky bird. 110 HP, 70 special defense, 70 defense is nothing to balk at. It's got 112 special attack, so it's an actual special attacker, and it's made that isn't the highest, but it's made better by having Sheer Force or Tinted Lens. So it can either always have neutral hits at least, or have super boosted attacks with Sheer Force, Life Orb, or whatever. So, just generally really good Pokemon, really good abilities on an otherwise kind of meh Pokemon. It's my secondary Tailwind setter. There's a slow surprise Tailwind is pretty cool. It's got a really good stab in Esper Wing, which is its signature move that boosts its speed by 1, and also it has 80 base power, I think, which is pretty cool. I like that. Obviously, with Sheer Force, it does nothing, but gets a boost. It has pretty okay coverage and has decent support moves like Icy Wind. So, it's gonna be there. I think it was overpriced. Overall, individually, I don't think a lot of my Pokemon were the best, but I like how they come together as a team, which I will show you. Actually, the only Pokemon I really don't like individually is probably Keely. I think it was probably overpriced. It just doesn't seem like, other than its bulk, it doesn't seem like it does that much, but I wanted to try a Hisuian Pokemon. Anyways, this isn't very hype. I'm not really hyping up my team that much, but I needed a special attacker, and I wanted to try it out. Try Keely out. And now I have Coach Beard. Coach Beard is my Passimian. And why did I pick up Passimian? Well, if you've been following, I may have said special attacker more than I've said physical attacker, but my physical attack stat is way higher than my special attack stat. So I needed a Defiant to make it so people couldn't just intimidate me and I'd lose. So I have Coach Beard with Defiant. It's a physical attacker. It has really good coverage. It can hit pretty much anything with the coverage it has, but it has no versatility in playstyle. It is always going to be something that just bonks you. It is also, the other problem is it's at a roughly 80 speed. My speed tiers aren't the best right now. My lowest is 65. My highest is actually really high, so who cares? The top end's fine, but the bottom end is not great. And Beard doesn't help with that. But it's a Defiant Pokemon. I wanted a Defiant Pokemon. And so this is when I had to start to crunch. What do? I have 8 points left, and I have 3 Pokemon to pick. And I was deciding between either going for Sunflora, Swalot, and Bagmon, or Knacklestack, which is what I ended up going with. Hello, Isaac. And 2 Bagmons. And ultimately, the reason I didn't go with Sunflora is because I didn't feel like it actually added that much. It gave me another special attacker. It gave me a grass type, a real grass special attacker. Especially if I was able to get the Sun up with something, or get Trick Room up. It gave me a threat under Trick Room. But I was just like, I thought to myself, am I ever genuinely going to bring Sunflora? Like, what will it do? And I couldn't think to myself that I would bring Sunflora much at all. I just couldn't think that I would. And so, after thinking I'm just not going to bring Sunflora much, I thought, well, I think I actually might bring Knacklestack a good amount. And Swalot, I was like, maybe it'll be useful into some niche matchups, but it's not going to be great. I think Knacklestack has a chance to be great every once in a while. And let me explain. I've built up this long game team. I feel like Screamtail can set up screens. It can trap my opponent with Encore Disable. I've got Intimidate. I've got a really bulky team. And to supplement its relative lack of physical bulk, I've got Intimidate. But this just gives me a straight up defense, a straight up high defense Pokemon. Salt Cure to help end games. And both of its defenses are better than it looks because it can hold Eviolite. And I wanted another Ghost Resist. And it does that. So that was ultimately what I think. I think Isaac's going to end up sitting in the back. And then every once in a while, it's going to Salt Cure next to a really bulky Pokemon, and it's going to just survive. It's just going to survive while my opponent slowly dies. And I value it for my ability to wait out endgames like that, and also because I think it needs to be respected significantly more in the planning stage, when you're building a team. So that was my mindset for picking Knacklestack. And so now, obviously, left with 2 Bagmons, Danny and Higgins. They are Bagmons. That's what they do. Danny being the Finizen, and Q-Font is Higgins. They will never come to a match. They are useless, but they are my friends. Let's go. So anyways, that pretty much wraps up for the individual Pokemons. I'm now going to go over a full team, the full team stuff. Anyways, yeah. Okay, I've removed the Bagmons just so we can get a better look at what my actual type chart looks like and what my speed tiers look like. But just recognize these average stats are actually significantly lower than what appear here because I'm excluding 2 Bagmons. So average stats aren't as good as they look. Although these are the average stats of what I'll bring to a match. So what do I like? In general, I like that my strongest Pokemon cover for each other's weaknesses. Obviously, that was the goal with the Fire, Water, Grass, and Steel, Fairy, Dragon cores. But I think I did do a pretty good job overall. with that. Like I said, speed tiers are kind of rough. I don't have much of anything for Trick Room. Knuckle Stack might do stuff under Trick Room, but it's not going to be a super offensive threat. It's a long game winner. So most of the time I'll have to either imprison Trick Room or Trick Room or reverse a Trick Room or something. I've got some really good weather setters. I've got my support, I think, is significantly better this season, although and really good overall. Although the one thing I will say is I do only have one Will-O-Wisp, which might be an issue, but it's on a Pokemon that will come to most weeks and is very good. So maybe it's not actually that bad. And I still have Intimidate to stop super seriously physically oriented teams. And even though I said my defense is lacking, it's not lacking like bad. It's just worse than my special defense, which is on average 10 points higher. But also that is, take out Knuckle Stack, that's starting to look like there's a much bigger difference, 94 to 79. So, do have to be wary about that. But anyways, yeah, I like that my team covers for each other's weaknesses. I think it's overall pretty good. It feels like a pretty solid team to me. Like, I don't think I will lose. If I don't do well this season, I don't think it's because of this team. I think it's because I don't know how to pilot it. This just feels very solid, easy to build, easy to build around, like defensively. And I believe that I can win with this team. Although it is important, last season I set myself a goal. I wanted to make playoffs. This season, I have no such goal. At least not results-oriented. I thought I was going to be like, well, now that I've made playoffs, my next goal is to win the whole thing. That's not what I'm doing. My goal is just to learn to play in a different way. I feel like last season, like I said before, pretty offensive overall. I wasn't super creative with a lot of my sets. There were a couple times I was, and I'm proud of that. But I think there's more I can do. And so I want to push myself this season to be more creative, try more things out, and also just to get better generally at draft and draft league stuff. And so my main goal this season is to learn. So yeah, that's what I'm my focus of the season. I will be happy if I've tried to do a bunch of different things, because if I try to have to surprise people and it work a good amount of the time, or if I learn to make it work sometimes, because I feel like that's what ultimately did me in last season. Was I was predictable, and Kodamrin was able to take advantage of that in the playoff match. And I don't want that to happen again. I want to be significantly less predictable. So anyways, that's my team. That's my team preview. I am happy with it overall. And yeah. Thank you for watching.